Good morning, people. And on today's program, the further sojourn of Hattie in Japan. Hattie.
Hello. Yeah, I really love Japan, and I hope you'll join me on this little foray from 2016 when I was there. And I had a super company help me to arrange the journey. It was expensive, but my God, it was a journey of a lifetime. And every little place I went to, they made a booklet. And these people are absolutely mad about Japan and prepare the journey and all different things you can do. They tell you the detail of the trains to catch and the distance from there to the hotel they booked you into. And I said I didn't want top class hotels all the time, so they looked into some family homes and little places where you can go, like a B&B. My goodness, they're high class anyway. And so off I went, having tailored my journey, and I think it's called Inside Japan, based in Bristol. And the See the World company on the corner of North View in Henleys, they put me in touch with this company because they know them. I would say to me it was extremely good value. It was the advice I received was excellent. I felt completely safe. I was so thrilled and interested in every day. So first I went to Kyoto, and that's what I told you about last time. And then I went to different places on my own until such time as I could meet up with a friend of mine who was working in Tokyo. And when I say working, they work you damn hard. And even on Saturdays. So even though it was the school holidays, you'd think she would be free for the school holidays. No, please would they wash all the children's rucksacks. Private school. Of course, the staff do a lot in a private school. Right, now what I'm looking for, am I a co-host, please? Okay, so patience. So this is the kind of TV that I could get in the hotel room television. And I thought it was extremely stupid, and I think Japanese people do, but they love to laugh at it. So it was near Christmas time, and these people are dressed up in, I mean, you can see dungarees with their live dogs and Christmas hats. Only 4% of Japanese are Christian. And here they are doing a Mickey take of various things, I guess. I can't understand the Japanese. Anyway, off we go from Kyoto. I went outings from Kyoto. I took a bus or a train, and this is some of the scenery. They've got very wide valleys in Japan, and that's where they're growing the rice, on the right of the road. Buses and trains are extremely efficient. Really, I find that Japan is all about people, and people are worked hard. Yes, they do technology and they do have engineers and stuff, but everybody has to have a job, as you might remember. They don't have social services like we do. And I guess some of them have pension schemes, but basically people work until they can't work anymore. So a lot of people do love gardening and nature, and every nook and cranny basically is gardened. This is the kind of country house which has got loads of wires and technology also on it. I don't know what this one in the middle, that object in the middle that looked like a spacecraft about to take off on 4 legs. Anybody know what that object is on the roof?
No idea.
A receiver? I don't know. But I was quite surprised at the kind of exposed wires which were all around. So we're going along here, and remember this is December, and I see a fruit tree with all these oranges on, but they weren't oranges, as it turns out. They were persimmons. And they obviously hang on to the tree, and they are winter fruits, and also they dry them. I bought an object once from a lady at a stall. I had no idea what it was. I was only going to buy one because honestly, I didn't know what it was, but I was curious, and she told me that I eat it. And I took it on a walk with me, and my goodness, it was wonderful. When I got to the end of the walk and needed a bit of sustenance, I had this dried fruit, and it was persimmon. It was gorgeous. This is just, I love to cultivate nature and you know, fiddle around with it, adapt it. So this is all covered in moss under the trees, and it's all on purpose. They want it there. I was on my way to a museum called the Miho Museum, M-I-H-O, and it's was built in the 2010s, opened in 2017, I think. Very modern, high up in the mountains, and extremely welcoming, as all Japanese styles are. And it's run by a sect who had accumulated an awful lot of artifacts like V&A, lots of artistic things, and also objects from other cultures, like we might frown on these days, like the Elgin marbles and wonderful things. And you get off the bus and you went up that pathway, you go through this long metal lined tube across this extraordinary bridge to the entrance to the museum, which is designed by somebody called P.A., who is a very well-known architect, and people say that it's probably his best building. You look out of a window and you see these kind of UFOs in the woods, and they are actually temples, as partially internationally well connected. One of the exhibitions was, I didn't go to those, by the way, but because I just stayed in the museum. But one of the exhibitions was about early Iran. I thought, what are you having an exhibition about Iran for? But then, like the British Museum does, they focus on various things. And in particular, this exhibition was put together using things that had been acquired by a sheikh from Qatar. And he wanted to, he didn't put that together. No, the museum put this one together. But you can see the light in this museum is absolutely lovely, and there's views. I think that's the front door looking through this sort of oval that opens in the foyer, and then you go out through the tunnel tubing. And those trees are just covered in frost because it's so high in the mountains that it was still frosty during the day. And they love their technology. They adore making fantastic bridges. And you see all these men at work. I mean, it is like a crowd of ants putting something together. As you can see, every corner is just used for farming. Sorry, I'm skipping through. That's the price of petrol. And the exchange rate during the year of 2016 was anything from 128 the pound. And so that, for a litre of petrol, was just about £1. Just extraordinary. For me, that seemed very cheap at the time. Going along in a bus, the streets are very busy. People live outdoors, basically. They don't invite you into their houses very often at all. The social life is out. I can't remember what they were selling on the left for 280 yen. There's about half a cabbage in the middle, and things all packaged in plastic. A cabbage for 290 yen. So that big cabbage for £1. It's probably because it was grown locally. Stores like this, they love their international collections, and the carpets And also, I liked going to museums. There were very many of them. This is a tray, and I think this was, if I remember, this is a silk museum, and these little rakes will pull out the cocoons from floating in the water of this tray. All kinds of different equipment and objects, which are no labels at all. So you guess, but there they are working on these silk cocoons to extract the silk, if I remember right. Can you see the clogs on the left raised up on about, I don't know, 2.5 inches of wood to keep them out of the water? They love their nature objects and just show them all over the place. This is for carrying now what did they use these lovely vases for? Actually, these vases were most often made in China, and not all of them were, because Japan had a very strong trade with the Philippines. And so these Chinese vases often were called by Filipino names by tradition, even though they might be made in China. So this is a carrying tray. Don't know why they didn't use wheels. Maybe they were going over fields. And the crossbar would go across the top to lift whatever was in the tray. And everything's decorated. All little spaces are just filled with joy. And Japanese people just love their mascots. This little dog here, or other, which I will show you later on. Sometimes they'll have a mascot for a city. So you see the sculptures of like Peter Pan or Paddington Bear around the city on various corners, and even more silly than that. They also loved, it's all shaped by people. So they get up there and they trim the branches and they make it look delicate and lovely. Every plant in this garden will have been humanly altered to suit what they think is a nice, beautiful view. And the placing of stones in gardens, of course, we don't necessarily do that, but it is very important in their culture. This is wisteria. So when it's out, it means that you can walk under it and be wafted with the scent of the wisteria. You can see the leaves for you in the summer. This is Byodo Temple in a city called Uji. Uji is outside Kyoto, easy going by train. And again, because the government encourages different localities to focus on different specialities, the speciality in Uji is tea. It was good atmosphere for growing tea, and it attracted, because it's not terribly far from Kyoto, it attracted people who had money to buy land and build their villas, and also build this wonderful temple, which is visited by very many people. I thought it was lovely, reflecting on the water, and they like their carp, as you know, and other creatures like this. Everything's decorated. I thought it was great. And well, I say everything's decorated. I mean, individual flats and people's houses are not so decorated as public places. Can you see the bell has its own little temple there? It's a vast bell. And I don't know what this is. Is it ginseng? No. No, it can't be, because ginseng's the root, isn't it? I thought this was quite a bit hilarious. It's not really not a lemon. Very odd. sorry, my internet says it's unstable. I don't know why. But I love these, and they're all pottery, those. They're molded and shaped. And can you see that this weird fruit tree has been sheltered by a straw object? That's not an offering to a god. It's a protection against snow. They do have extremely heavy snow in Japan at the highlands. It's temperate climate like ours, but they have a lot of high mountains. Kyoto isn't particularly high, so I guess that's not particularly protective against snow, but they'll individually buy snow. This is the Byodo temple again. And this bridge, if I remember, that bridge is made of wood. I didn't take a decent photo of it, but they have a festival once a year, tea festival, of course, and the priests, the Buddhist priests, go onto the bridge, and it's absolutely crowded, and they do water dipping. So they'll collect water from the river in a ritualistic way to make tea and to, I suppose, do some blessings on the water, make sure it's pure. Rivers are very doctored going through cities. Every bank of the rivers is made to walk along, is shaped, is controlled. And in Uji, there is an area which is designated for the cormorants to go and do their fishing. So I didn't watch that, but you can watch that because they're set up for tourism in that way. Lovely sculptures like this. Well, I think they're great. How could you call them sculptures? They're not really individualized. They're traditional. Yeah, they are sculptures at people's gates. This will be a Shinto temple, and Shinto, what I was going to say is Japanese people are quite flexible about their religions, so it doesn't matter if you shift from Shinto to Buddhism. Those are the two main ones. And often people will go to a Shinto temple to get married because it's kind of seen as less serious than Buddhism, and also to die, because white is very much a color in the Shinto temples. And the Shinto temples is where you see lots of paper prayers hanging up. And it's in a way it might be, well, to me, I guess I would see partly it as pagan, because you can leave all these paper messages in the hope that some way you'll get blessing or something will go right for you. And I don't know, it's struck me as very human, really. And these are the headstones, the memorials to people. And when it did snow in Kyoto, because it came up Christmas time, what was hilarious was people thought that they should go and put hats on them and scarves on them, because the people who are out there in the snow might get cold. So I thought that was hilarious. I don't know if these little boxes at the top would be for putting candles in. I'm not sure. Never found that out. But the pillars on these Shinto shrines are solid wood. They've got to go hunting for enormous trees to make them. So the white zigzags up here and hanging off the enormous rope, those are paper messages to whichever god it is that somebody's looking at. This is a view from a hill. So you walk up the hill in this little city, they call it, of Uji, to other shrines and temples, and you're looking down on the business part of the city, which is largely separate from the tourist part of the city. All these lovely drains along the side of the road, I thought to me, it appeals that they like them decorated. And they don't go digging up the roads like we do, because along the sides of the roads is where all utilities are. And they're under these kind of covers. There are some manholes, but mostly they have very sensibly put all the utilities along the sides of the roads. So that's a specific Uji manhole cover featuring this wooden bridge, and the sort of bay that the priest will lean over to the water dipping at the tea festival, sorry. This is a clock kind of feature outside of a station. There are an enormous number of stations, and the trains work very efficiently. This guy is cooking street food, really. It's just straight open onto the street. And these balls are octopus. And actually, they're so lovely that I would buy 2 or 3 at a time for supper, and just walk around the streets nibbling them. Nobody seems to mind eating on the streets. There they are, just prepping and cooking. Takoyaki, octopus balls, that's what they're called. Lots of building is still going on. I mean, it's not as if it's undeveloped country, and the countryside just comes right up to the edge of towns. I didn't see any housing estates like we've got with little tacky boxes. So here we are going on the train over a phenomenally engineered bridge, which you can't see because I'm in the train, going to an island called Shikuko. And that island is southwest of Kyoto, west of Tokyo, and it's sort of on the way to Hiroshima, but I didn't go to Hiroshima. And I went to this island and did some country walking. I wanted to be out of the city as well. But the stations are very efficient and lots of English, always somebody there to ask the way. And I just walked out of there to take another local train up to the hostel where I was staying. They do have shops like we have, with all the outdoor garden sector and the house sector like B&Q. This is a fairly traditional house. I doubt it's made of paper, but the walls will be extremely thin and they get extremely cold in winter. Beautifully designed, I think. So on my way to a hostel in the hills, they've got phenomenal gorges on the Shikuko Island. This is a Buddhist cemetery, and the headstones are much more square and far less decorative than the Shinto. That is a Buddhist one, but most of them are rather less decorative than that. See, the garden just being gardened, and there's a railway on the right and just a little bank up to the footpath, and somebody's decided to grab it and do some gardening. Maybe that's the water supply for the fire engine. Wood yard, because Shikuko is very wooded, and rivers, mountains, gorges. I thought that was quite pretty, and they will use all those offcuts for building purposes, I think. And instead of packets of, cornflakes and things on corner shops, you would find that the owners had packaged up individual kilos of beans and couscous and rice and what have you. I really loved going into shops like this. It felt like, a bit like childhood. Where you went in and you ferreted around. In fact, in one of these little shops, I found some stacked boxes and there were teapots in there. So I came back with a little Japanese teapot sold in a sort of corner shop, which I loved. So this is a bit of a river. Ah, here we have it. This is the hostel I stayed at. Single glazed. You can see the rain hit the windows outdoors. Yes, there's a curtain. The walls are pretty paper thin. So how do I keep warm? Perhaps I put the aircon on. Bed on the floor, and the mats underneath are a set size. There's a kind of standard size for everything. And in fact, even though that's the blanket and the duvet, I was warm enough, which is so lovely to, well, it was such a relief to be warm enough. The room was cold and everybody went into the communal room for the evening to stay warm. And in the middle of the communal room, the floor goes like that, and then it goes down and flat, and that little sunken area is heated. So in the middle of the sunken area, there's a table, and you put your knees over the edge of the sunken area to get your legs and lap warm. Sorry, the sun is doing particular things today as it comes out near a window. And on the walls, quite hilarious actually. So that's a ceiling rose, but on the walls on the left there, those are covers of Beatles extended play records. And they do love their Beatles, and I suppose they think if it's a hostel for foreigners, they better put something foreign on the walls. The door was just about paper thin too. And here we are with the table in the middle of this sunken area. The table then has a duvet on top of it, so you cuddle under the duvet with your legs in the warm area and put your jackets on top. And that was how we spent the evening, sharing that table with each other, wandering in and out of the little kitchenette where we could have fix our tea. Now, this is risky business because I've now got to go to another folder to show you the next lot. I don't know if I can remember what I did, but okay. So luckily they picked me up at the station because for the hostel, because to be honest, I wouldn't have found it otherwise. And along we went up into the mountains with these wonderful clouds, and there was evening time. Mm-hmm. You suddenly felt like you were in I don't know, not quite the Lake District. So next morning, I got on the local bus with very much help from the hostel. They instructed me what to take. And I was going along to this hotel. This looks a weird view. It is a weird view. It's looking down a funicular, and in the middle, there's a little white box. And that little white box is your funicular cabin, which can take about 8 people. You go from the hotel down there to the onsen. An onsen is a hot bath. And so there's natural thermal springs coming out at the bath. So it was in the morning, going down through the clouds. I loved this experience. Bought a ticket to get down there. On the way down, you could see the bridge going across the stream at the bottom. And that is the baths. And I went in, and that was the view from the baths. And we were up on stilts. That's me in the baths. And a second or two later, forgive me if I've told you this before, a second or two later, there was this enormous rap, 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 rap on the door. I was the only person there. And there's a fountain of hot water coming out of the spout on the left and the view on the right. And the rap, rap, rap. And this Japanese guy who had no English came and told me, one way or another, indicated to me that I was in the men's bath. I had no idea. Oh dear. A very nice artistic area. And he showed me into the ladies' spa. So, and lots of different chemicals and things that you could, oh no, these are drinks in tins. Wow, I was happy to see tins. But honestly, the amount of plastic and the drinks and the food that comes in plastic was quite shocking. Though also at corner shops, they would have a bath of hot water, and floating in that would be nicely flavoured dumplings. You might think they look grey and pretty horrible floating around in hot water, but in fact the flavour was just terrific. So you could take those on a paper plate and eat them on the streets. So you didn't have to buy plastic all the time. But I thought this gorgeous type view was wonderful. And obviously the Japanese think so too, and they do their steaming pictures with people in hot baths at the bottom left and little boats and crossing. This bridge illustrated on the right is a vine bridge. So after I'd had my hot bath, I wanted to go to the vine bridge. And the hot bath was about, I don't know if you can see my pointer, but it was about somewhere down here, and I had to walk somewhere to over here to see the vine bridge, and I thought the vine bridge was absolutely stunning. They trust it, absolutely. It's renovated and monitored by people. There's always people supervising you going over it, and you go over to a visitor centre. This is what you find on sale. Oh dear, that's so funny. But also, little corner alongside the road, that would be a shrine to somebody who'd gone over the edge and got killed or something like that. This is a wall, lovely moss in between the bricks alongside the road, misty morning, lichen, little hollow, perhaps there's a spider living in there or something, I don't know. And this is a sign about workers, I think. I don't know what that person's doing. No idea. Beautiful, what are these leaves from? Maple, aren't they? Lovely trees. And this particular valley, the Ia Valley, I think Ia is the letter. There's a Japanese letter which is shaped like a U or like a pot. And that red dot was very spectacular, looking both ways. And they've collect water there with a dam, and bridges are very spectacular. So you can see the Hotel Ia Onsen is on the right. So I walked along the road. There wasn't any other way to walk, actually. So I just walked alongside this rather open road with a disastrously steep fall over the edge and a little fence alongside, about, I don't know, a foot high, something like that. Anyway, so trying to look down to the bottom. That's the U-shaped river going round the bend. It was all very misty the day I was there, and very good for fungi, I think. A gorgeous yellow fungi. Another shrine along the side. More views. But looking down at that view, this is the kind of water collection system they would have, like hydroelectrics in well, there's some hydroelectric power coming from the Lake District they have, but there was a lot on this island, and the pylons marching off with their electricity. But in particular, I, apart from the Vine Bridge, I wanted to see if I could get to the place where there was a boat going along the gorge, because I wanted to have that experience. More of these old houses, though most people don't like living in old houses these days because they are so cold. Lovely flowers out at this time of year, even so. So I'm walking on, and at the bottom of this place there is the boat outings along the gorge. This little bird was very, very sweet and decorative. Again, I just love the wood. I don't know what wood it is. Cabbages, they do like very much, and they just don't mind gardening on any slopes. So I'm getting to this vine bridge and the visitor centre, and all the food they have is as they picture it. If you want such and such, you point to the picture and that is exactly what you will get. There's no variety. They try to make it exactly how the picture looks. There's a pilgrimage there, and so the pilgrimage is like 160 miles or something like that, and so they cater for the pilgrims along the way, apart from tourists. A stuffed deer, not real. And this is the restaurant cafe. So I don't know what they do for people in wheelchairs. Perhaps they just sit at these low tables without raises. But I thought it was a very nice atmosphere and obviously thought about and decorative. These are noodles. They are extruded and twisted and packaged like this for you to have. They're rather grey colour, but there's lots of different kinds of noodles in Japan, and they might look like string. But as I said, everybody has to work until they're older. So I saw older people managing the noodle makers in the front windows of bakeries, stroke noodle makers, and doing the work there. Quite simple, straightforward work. That's not real, that's a poster. But these little kiosks along the side of the road. Oh, you can see the barrier down to the gorge. It was not tourist season. That kiosk was not open. Nobody was there. But you can see for a couple of quid, you could obviously get a snack or a meal for 500 yen. And these are my photos of that's not the Vine Bridge, that's the bridge you go over to the other side and to walk on the Vine Bridge. But some people were quite scared. I mean, you have to step between these logs, which are all bound together by vines. It's been there hundreds of years and they just replaced them. And the vines are living vines. So I say it's a living vine. I mean, I guess they harvest those to make it with. Wood all bound together. I felt quite safe. You could drop a camera between the floorboards or your memory stick. But all very, very contrived. That's what I would say. Contrived is a good word. I didn't see that. That was a walk away, so that's a photograph. And bonsai trees, here you are, set out. That's outside somebody's house. Those aren't for sale, but they obviously have a good go at them. Oh, a hornet. I thought it was a hornet. Maybe it's the Asian hornet. You see how banded the body is. Anyway, it was large. So I took some photos. The heating in the restaurant. You remember paraffin used to have when we were kids? We used to have a paraffin heater in our caravan where we lived. much smaller than that one. But this is the bowl of soup, beautifully presented. All the condiments that they have. And that's the little window that you can look into the kitchen to see what they've got. And this is a bus stop, which they've decorated for fun. Has anybody been up to the Shetland Islands and seen John Peel's bus stop? Well, this reminded me of it, with Father Christmas sitting in the corner of the bus stop doing his own thing because it was Christmas time. I thought that was very humorous, and goodness knows who's done it, whether it's the local people or I don't know, tourist office instruct people to do it. I'm not sure. That's a live dog and a very dead puppet man selling his umbrellas. Eventually I got on a boat. Now the extraordinary thing was I just missed a trip. So I started chatting with the people behind the counter, or they asked me where was I from, and there's a big map, and they took me over to it and asked me where I came from, England. And then I saw that they had points, coloured points, where most people had come from. And I saw one on Bolivia. And I said, who came from Bolivia? And they said, our chef. Do you want us to introduce you? So I went to meet a Bolivian chef in a Japanese restaurant. And she was about the only Bolivian in Japan. I thought it was lovely, but I got to speak a bit of Spanish. But this trip up the gorge was absolutely great. We didn't crash the boat once, and the speed of the water coming through the narrows sometimes was quite ferocious. I was delighted. And there were one or two other people there. The rocks with superb colours, and you could have a look at the intrusions and the way they collected the water on the way down the sides of the gorge. Big rocks, I mean, they call them different things. That's got the one on the right will have a name because it looks like a lion or some such, like in Cheddar caves where all these formations are named. That's like a little beach where the water washes down and makes sand on the way down the side of the gorge. You can see the underneath of the road. I mean, goodness knows. Who wants to know that the path is propped up by those little props along the side of the road? Or at least it was wide enough to walk on. But the speed of the water was quite ferocious at certain points and calm at others. And then we got off, walking up the sides. It was rainy, well, of course, with all those clouds. Borrowed an umbrella. And that was a hotel along the very side of the gorge. Much concrete, but also much loved. Look at this lovely decorative curtains over doors or ways into the loos or the onsen. And I did come back with one of these curtains, and I kept it across my kitchen door for a while. Walking along, found these horrors, and these remind me of what I've seen in Latvia, the sort of sculptures of little people or devils or, well, pixies and fairies from Ireland who live in the woods and amongst the rocks, scary creatures. I found it very amusing that they'd got lots of those on sale. These are paper kites. You've probably seen them on sale before, blowing in the wind. They have festivals. I didn't see that. That was a picture on a wall. But it has got little corns in front of its ears. I don't know what it's called. Does anybody else know what it's called? And they have eagles. This is one of those funny fruits. Ugly? Don't know. Oh yes, this was the shop selling these horrors. They do like their horrors, don't they? And all the films that are made with cartoons and characters. Oh, I thought this was hilarious. I love these crazy things. That's going down on the funicular. Enough. These are all videos, aren't they? Because they're at the end. Right, that's the end of that little selection. So if I stop sharing, then hopefully I can get to the next one. This way. So I've got to shut that, and I've got to shut that. So I've cleared the old stuff that I've been sharing. And oh gosh, it's so much time. Enough. I've been chatting for far too long. I think I should ignore the screen sharing idea and just get back to you. I can't hear anything. Why is that? Are you speaking? Oh, you're all muted.
I could hear you, Hattie.
Okay.
That was an absolutely wonderful. It must have been so much fun visiting that type of thing, you know.
It was just amazing.
Yeah. How long were you there for?
About 10 days, before Christmas to after Christmas. So I think I went on about the 15th or 16th of December, and then came back just after New Year, I think. And it was wonderful to be there, not in the height of tourist season, because honestly, wherever I went, I got individual attention. I mean, there were tourists, but not many.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I loved the craft centres, because, you know, if I fancied making some print, a woodblock print, I'd be shown how individually. It was wonderful.
You said something about people, the Japanese and the Philippines.
Yes.
And which rang a bell for me, because my brother is married to a Japanese girl, and her family, part of her family live in the Philippines now. So her mother has now gone from Japan to go and live with her cousins in the Philippines, you know. So my brother said it takes an absolute fortune to get there.
Right.
And, you know, from England, you know, you kind of have to go on about 3 different aircraft and all this lot, you know.
Yeah.
But obviously I've met her, and, you know, and she tells me stories of that as well, you know. So, you know, more about the Philippines, because she was there as a little girl and she spent most of her time in the Philippines rather than in Japan, you know. So there you go.
I mean, it is such a long distance. I really wonder when the trade route developed. But what I was reading about the pottery was in the 1700s. So
you obviously had a wonderful time. You obviously had a wonderful time, Hattie, and you speak about it very colourfully and with great affection. And it's lovely to see your you know, enthusiasm and happiness going through the pictures, and you can feel the enjoyment that you had. It's great.
Yeah.
I have been to Japan myself, and I've been to Tokyo and Yokohama and Kyoto, and yeah, they're beautiful people, and the way that it's an interesting mixture, as you showed, of some sort of kind of industrialized buildings with tubes on the outside, but actually the buildings all fitting in with nature. more closely than ours seem to.
I mean, that particular, the Miho Museum was purposely built into the side of the mountain, and it is very discreet. You really can't see it. You can't see it from the main road as you approach on the bus. You can't really see the building until you get through that tunnel. There is a little welcoming area where the buses do their turnarounds and, you know, a little cafe and shop there. But then off you go through the garden, through the tunnel, up to the museum. And then your views, the other side of the museum, are up onto the mountainous hillsides. I mean, this sect must be incredibly rich. The stuff they've got there, all those Egyptian things. And as I say, they had this special exhibition about Iran and all sorts of history there. They had a particular exhibition of Mughal jewelry, which was put on by a Qatari sheikh because he loved it. So he thought that he would make a collection of Indian jewelry. I mean, what?
Right.
Yeah, it was good fun. I think Christopher and Mary and Rosaline have gone to sleep or gone elsewhere for coffee.
Rosaline's there.
No, thank you, Hattie. That was just absolutely amazing. I was enthralled with all your. Thank you for sticking with trying to get those pictures, because they really did, you know, kind of make the talk, if you like. But I was fascinated at what you were saying about them using every scrap of land, and everything seemed so neat and well taken care of. And yeah, really inspiring, and even very practical, as you said, about the drains on the side of the road. You know, they'd obviously thought things through very well, but also taking the time to decorate everything. So they clearly had great pride in their lives and their work. But thank you so much for sharing. Wonderful.
Hattie, could you comment about feeding, please?
Feeding humans?
Yeah. Food,
eating?
yeah.
Food?
Yeah.
Well, they still value their markets, so you can go and buy fresh food at stalls very early in the morning. The women at the stalls will have a box of charcoal, and that box of charcoal is under a wooden box that they sit upon with their clothing draped over it to keep warm. It is perishing cold in the mornings. Even small plots of land in the town will be a field of vegetables, and you think to yourself, how come somebody hasn't had that land gobbled up for housing? So there must be some planning regulations that just don't allow bits of land being used as garden to be built on. There must be. So other feeding habits, because they don't have ovens, everything's cooked on top of heaters or on top of little fires. So that gives a different range of food, I would say. They fry quite a bit. And the other thing is that in the supermarkets, there's lots of small supermarkets as well, you can find ready cooked fish. And when I came back, I thought, why don't they sell ready cooked fish or prepared prawns or things in? Why don't they sell it in this country? And of course, all the cooking regulations would probably not work here, but they don't. And I mean, I suppose our supermarkets do sell barbecued chicken, don't they? But chickens were being barbecued on the streets. You could see that was done quite frequently, and they were readily available to buy. But cooked meat and cooked fish are readily available to purchase in supermarkets, partly because people haven't got the time to cook at home, I think, partly because the law must be regulated such that they can cook in a shop and sell it to you, but not at a cafe or restaurant. I'm not talking about that. Other things they ate, yes, lots of different kinds of rice on sale, and beans. Now, at breakfast in the hotels, you're given a tray with lots of different pots in them, spaces that you can choose a little of this and a little of that and a little of the other. And breakfast is a smorgasbord. You've got salads, you've got pickles, you've got eggs, you've got vegetables of different kinds. It's just a feast at breakfast time, and they very much encourage you not to waste food. So you only take a little of this and a little of that, and there are signs saying, take small amount, come back for more. I can't remember the actual phrase they use, but it's a common phrase that is used to encourage people to not take loads. Yeah, they're not fat. They eat with chopsticks a lot of the time, and you know that's slower than eating with a spoon and fork.
Is it expensive for tourists to holiday there?
It is expensive to holiday there, yes. Yes. So that was 2016. So a meal in a small cafe that is sort of doing mass-produced food, but definitely not like McDonald's or Burger King. No, they are so unpopular. But more like locally made food from scratch. That you walk in, there's a counter over there, there's basic plain tables and chairs, and it's like a cafe. Not greasy, definitely not greasy. And I could have really eaten almost anything, except there's one or two things I don't like. I don't like bitter, but everything is good food. You feel it's wholesome food. And they love presenting it. And I think the meals that I was eating out were between £8 and £12. £12 was a pretty expensive one. The breakfasts were included in the hotels. And once in Kyoto, I found a very, very small shop, not quite cupboard size, but maybe 4 times a cupboard size. And the guy behind the counter, they were so sweet, and he was fixing food, and I ordered something, and an older lady came and gave it to me. I can't remember what set off the conversation, but she wanted to speak her English, and we started talking about music, and she was in charge of an ocarina band.
Oh, yeah.
And they had a whale of a time, and they used to travel different villages and towns giving little performances. And then I went back the next night because I thought this was such a lovely atmosphere. And there was this guy, and he was making stollen.
Good gracious.
And he made very small stollens that would have fitted in your hand like that, with silver foil over them. And he said they'd made them last year and they'd been so popular. I think the Japanese people just never seen them before, never tasted it before, and wanted to experiment. So he was really going for his business.
Oh, thank you.
Brilliant.
Yes, I'm very pleased to hear that the traditional Western fast food is frowned upon. I think it should be all over the country, personally. But
yeah, so do I.
Mm.
But they're not fat. And I was given a book by a friend called "Why Japanese Women Are Not Are Never." What do they say? Why Japanese women are never fat and don't age, or something like that. And this particular Japanese woman wrote the book. She married a North American man, and she just was completely shocked and befuddled by how big their mouthfuls were, how big the plates were full. She couldn't believe how fast they ate, and all these little factors that she realized had contributed to Japanese people not being fat. I didn't see much Tai Chi going on outdoors, and that's probably because it was a bit cold. But that is a social start to your day, is to go and do your outdoor exercise in a group. And that's where your friendships develop. The friendships don't develop by inviting people round to your house from school, for instance. You know, people have sleepovers here. I don't think there's such a thing in Japan. They may be starting, of course.
No. I love Tai Chi. You know, it's something beautiful which you can. I love doing it with others, but I can actually do it myself. But yeah, I'm all for that. More people should do it.
We should start doing it on our front lawns or drives or something. You know, why not? Yeah,
I'm all for that. Yeah. Make sure.
That's good fun.
Anyway, my friends, it has come to that time now. So, any more questions or comments for Hattie, please?
Just to note that Patsy apologised. She had to leave for her COVID jab.
Well, good for her. Booked.
Bless you, Hattie. Thank you. It's very interesting. Lovely.
Good.
Right.
Good fun.
Right then, friends. Before you saunter off for your lunch, next week is something by David.
Right.
And I don't know whether he is setting us up, but conspiracy theories.
It won't be too crazy.
Wait next Friday for bum, bum, bum. I am being silly, I know, but I couldn't resist it. Anyway, folks, thank you for all coming today, and I will see you hopefully next week.
Thanks, Hattie. Bye.
Thanks, David. Thanks for your help.